Good afternoon. My name is Ross Kennedy, Chief Executive of Africa Alberta Tourism. I'm talking to you today about positioning SADC in the global travel luxury marketplace. As most of us know who either operate or sell this part of the world, of course, SADC is just a remarkable, diverse destination of countries, of properties, of destinations, of experiences. And the ability to access those various destinations is really what's changed in the last 5 years, I would say. The flight routes, the airlines servicing this area, the number of airports that have either been built or upgraded or extended to take bigger aircraft and longer runways, better facilities, etc., etc. These are the kind of things that have made the difference to this area and will continue to make a difference, of course, therefore, to the travellers and the choices they can make, the routes they can take in and out, which, of course, in this modern day of flight travel can be in one end of the continent and out the other, and access the entire SADC region from a variety of places within the SADC region. When you look at the number of airports that sit within SADC, the choice and the ability to make a multi-destination journey has grown significantly in the last few years. You've got all the obvious hub airports like, of course, OR Tambo, Cape Town, and then into Victoria Falls, Livingston, Kasane, Mound, Gaborone, Windhoek, right across the region. You've got these airports and facilities that allow people to make different choices, let me say, to those that they and their agent may have made a few years ago. The range of property and the range of experience, of course, has also changed dramatically, in so much as the many upgrades, many new properties, the number of luxury camps and small lodges is actually quite remarkable to see, even being within the industry and knowing many of the properties and keeping up with new events, new openings, upgrades, refurbishments. It really does offer a tremendous choice and range to the guest and to the potential traveller. And along with that, of course, luxury travel is often associated with very high prices and very high rates. And yes, of course, that may well be the case, but usually it's those rates and prices are usually very well deserved by the properties that put them out there. And of course, like all businesses in all sectors across the world, if you charge too much and don't deliver, you are quite likely to be fairly empty. And if you charge too little, you're quite likely to go bust quite soon. So the industry in the SADC region, in the luxury sector, is very, very sensitive to that, has learned which markets appeal to their particular product and which nationalities and so on. So those are the kind of things that all of us need to be aware of and consider when promoting travel to the SADC region. But within the luxury range, and of course luxury will mean different things to different people, but within that broad spectrum of luxury properties, there is everything from what may be $300, $400, $500 US per night to properties that are $4,000, $5,000 and $6,000 US per person per night. So even within the luxury sector, you've got a gradual build-up of pricing and offerings and all forms of luxury. And of course, luxury can be a luxury camping trip, but it also can be some of the incredible properties that we are so blessed to have on this continent and in the SADC region that regularly win awards across the world and run at massive occupancies at wonderful rates, but deliver incredible experiences. The other thing that the SADC region offers, of course, is diversity. And that diversity is something that covers every aspect of our business, and every aspect, I suspect, of what travelers are looking for. And by that diversity, I speak to everything from culture and people to the history of those countries in the SADC region, community, modern African cities as well within the SADC region. Very vibrant African cities that many of us are blessed to have been born in and to have lived our lives in, and still do live and operate our businesses here. And of course, within that, you've also got community, wildlife experiences, conservation activities, as well as the whole interaction that comes and is available to guests staying in this range of properties. And so within those elements that I've just spoken to there, again, the range of offerings is simply quite remarkable in terms of choice, of location, of cost. Often when one is staying in luxury camps and lodges, the community in that area will be a partner in that particular property, and will work with that property and with that company and with those operators from every aspect, from the staff being from those communities to community projects that property and that company is involved in. And so through that engagement with the community, of course, one then can also engage in the history and culture of that area and of those people, many of whose parents and grandparents and great-grandparents, of course, will have been in that area for many years, and who know the background, who know the wildlife, who know the culture that has persevered through many years. And so those interactions are part of what offers value to guests staying in this part of the world. In addition to that, of course, you've got activities that take place across the region. And that's talking about activities, that's everything from the kind of activities that one can experience in Victoria Falls. There's approximately 50 different activities, from on land, on water, in the air, very active, high adrenaline, low adrenaline, and through to cultural, community, and soft and sedentary activities. And of course, at a broad range of pricing too, from working with local artists and being taught to paint, taught to make beadwork, taught to make local foods, experience local culture, through to all the high wire and adrenaline activities on the river, for example. And then across the breadth of the region, every zone has its range of activities. In the Delta, for example, many of those activities, of course, are water and land and wildlife based. And some of the finest wildlife experiences that one is likely to have anywhere in the world are to be found in SADC countries, and especially in places like Chobe and the Delta, and Awangi and Kruger, etc. So the offering, if I can call it that SADC gives to the global luxury marketplace, and the assets, human and natural, that SADC countries are blessed with, and of course offer to the travel industry and offer to guests, are quite remarkable. And when placed on a competitive and peer scale, I think one can very clearly see and acknowledge that offering that SADC has competes with just about anything in other parts of the world, and of course for all its own merits. The peoples of Africa, the peoples of SADC, of which I'm very proud to be one, are widely blessed with absolute natural hospitality talent, with a welcome, with the ability to engage with tourists from around the world, and to share with tourists. And I'm talking about everybody from staff to guides to management of these properties, their ability to impact upon their guests and again visitors, and to leave those guests and the visitors with lasting, lifelong impressions that make a difference to their lives, and particularly if they're with families and with children. The learning, the sharing of culture, of history, of tradition, of conservation work. These are all things that SADC offers in abundance, and that the modern traveller is increasingly sensitized to, and very, very willing, and indeed in many cases it's part of their must do on their trips, to be able to engage, to be able to learn, to be able to take away with them something that can be described in different ways, of course, but that possibly may have a lifelong impact upon them and or their children, and that they will share with others, and in so doing build the PR for those SADC countries. One of the things, of course, in modern travel is food, and again, SADC countries offer across the range of hotels, from five-star hotels to camps and lodges, at all levels, of all sizes. Food and beverage has become a big part of international travel these days, and certainly luxury travel. And once again, across the SADC region, there are properties and people and chefs and sommeliers and food and beverage experts within those properties who can offer so much, both in terms of normal feeding guests 3 or 4 times a day, but also to doing live cooking experiments with guests, to involve them in the making of traditional dishes, and teach them things that perhaps they learned from their great-grandmother. So those kind of things happen an awful lot, and participation in the luxury safari market and the luxury market within the SADC region is another factor that's growing across the sector. We find that many tourists want to know much more about our staff, about their background, about their lifestyles, about their education, about their training. That never was the case before. Certainly when we built our properties in Victoria Falls 27 years ago, that wasn't the case. It's become a much more interactive element of the hospitality and tourism business, and something that certainly for me and my team in the Falls, we're absolutely delighted to see. The other thing that happens in the luxury market in our part of the world is the nurturing of young people, the nurturing of young talent, identifying people possibly at 16, 17 still at school, assisting them through hotel school or hospitality training centers, taking them on attachment from such education centers, working with local communities where one has a partnership with them. As an example, our property in Botswana, in Ngome Safari Lodge, the Chobe Enclave Conservation Trust is our partner there. And all the staff there at Ngome, 33 of them for 16 beds, they're all from the 5 villages that make up that conservation trust within the area. And so those kind of things are replicated right across the SADC region. And so tourism in the sector and tourism at the luxury end of the marketplace in the SADC region has contributed greatly to the growth of economies, to upskilling people, to cross-training, sending people to other countries in the SADC region and outside the SADC region for exposure, for learning modern trends, for themselves interacting in international markets, be it at shows or wine shows or food fairs, so that they begin to appreciate much more what the international guests are expecting when they arrive. So that range of education, of conservation and community support, the wider description, of course, of CSR, and in terms of corporate social responsibility programs, the way that many tourism companies across this region give back to conservation and community is in many cases quite staggering. The numbers add up to amazing levels of contribution, that again weren't always there. And so the industry has become even more responsible than it has been for most of its history in this part of the world, where we've always valued the environments in which we operate, the peoples in the areas in which we operate, and the history and culture and wildlife and conservation of those areas is very near and dear to the hearts of most people in this industry in this part of the world. And so in closing, to go back to the opening of positioning SADC in the global luxury marketplace, it really can be described as one of the finest pieces of tourism, wildlife and community and conservation real estates on the planet. And I say that with great pride and with unashamedly, that we're very blessed to have been born in this part of the world and to be operating in this part of the world, and to share what we share with international guests and see the delight on their faces and the impact that we all make upon them in this part of the world. And it's something that I simply see growing more and more into the future. And certainly with the wide network of people that I operate with, interact with across the region, I know that the desire to grow standards, the desire to learn from each other, the desire to learn and carry out best practice is an ongoing thing. And certainly in my case, at our company, at Africa Albert Tourism, we look forward to welcoming each and every tourist that the trade sends to our part of the world. And we will strive and endeavor to send those people back home to their home countries, having had one of the finest experiences of their lives. Thank you.